Welcome back, everybody, for Business and Life Stories with Mike and James. Joining us this week is Jennifer Mastor of Mastor Recruiting. And I'm not going to give anything away. We're just going to get rolling on this, but I'll tell you, if you are looking to hire, which most of you are right now because you need help, you need to hear what Jennifer's got to say. All right. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So I guess what I'd like to ask, because it's on my mind, is, and you've probably been asked it 100 times or 1,000 times, but I think that it's always worth asking. What's the most important thing in working in the recruitment industry?
Knowing what you're looking
as
for.
a person. Yeah.
So as you're talking as an employer or for me?
Yeah, more for people who are more in your role. What do you think's like a really, really important I don't know, personality trait or skill set of working in recruitment?
Working in recruitment is you have to know yourself really well. You have to be highly inquisitive and you have to listen with intent. And I think the biggest thing that people need to know that they don't want to say out loud, and here's the secret of being a recruiter, we judge people for a living. That's exactly what we do. We are hired to judge people.
Yeah.
And you have to know, and you have to know how to do it carefully, professionally, and authentically.
Authenticity is a huge thing, isn't it? It is the downfall of, I guess, so many people, but sort of a lot of the online world is the whole authenticity thing, isn't it?
No, it's just not on the online world. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And I guess going on from that, what would be maybe a few tips of a startup looking to bring on some fresh people? What should they be considering as in some of their recruitment, maybe SOPs or their processes?
Well, they have to know what their startup is about.
Yeah.
When they bring people in, what's the reason behind it? What is your main purpose behind it? What kind of person do you want to work with? Someone smarter than you, not so smart, totally different personality, different education, different mannerism, different skill set. You don't want the same because that could be boring. You want someone who's going to challenge you. So if you have a startup, if you have a partner, then that partner should, be relatable with you. And if you're on your own and you have somebody underneath you, you've got coworkers underneath you, you want to make sure that they're authentic. You want to make sure that whatever they're bringing in is very different than what you can offer. And that way, when you start hiring and you start looking, they can bring in new challenges and new ideas to you.
Could I unpack that a bit?
Tear it apart. Go ahead.
I mean, for me, that's encompassed so many things, and do some firms go away thinking, oh yeah, like kind of, I hadn't thought about it to that depth. Like for me, that's a multi-depth approach, isn't it? It's knowing very clear of what the company is, the purpose and the vision, but also very clear on what you're looking for as well, not just within other people, but within yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, why else are you going to do a startup if you don't have a purpose and a value and a why?
Yeah.
Otherwise, why have a startup?
Well, exactly. But I think, there's been a load of people who I've certainly talked to, and Mike and I have talked to, who maybe more in the coaching realm, but they're sort of like unclear perhaps on who their perfect client is, or they can't succinctly say the purpose. Just see what I'm saying? Whereas it seems that opening statement for you there was so multi-depth, do you find that some people have to go away and really consider it, or do a lot of your clients instantly can talk about those things?
I think if I'm understanding you correctly, I think you need to have the layers before you do any type of startup. I think you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. What is the true purpose of doing what you're doing? The end result is to make money, sure. But you have to do so many different things before you actually see the money coming in. You know, it's reputation. I mean, you can't just have a startup and just say, okay, because I've done this for 2 years, so you're not reliable. You're not credited in doing what you're doing. So when I talk to people, and if they're starting a new business, I want to know, why should I work with you? Just because you said you've been a salesperson for 2 years, does it make you worth something that I want to take a chance with? Where's your credentials? Where's your experience? You know, give me some background and give me substance. So when you're doing a startup, you need that substance.
And I guess leading on from that, do you find that the idea of having someone which might be recruiting someone who might be more intelligent or more challenging or a better XYZ, do you find that some of your clients feel a little bit more kind of a little bit challenged or triggered by that? Because it's sort of putting the old hierarchical approach sort of on its head a bit, isn't it?
Well, are you talking about when I work with a client who wants to hire me to find somebody? Or are you talking about when I interview somebody for a position?
I guess what really interested me was you were saying they need to know whether someone whether they're wanting to find someone who is more intelligent than them or more skilled. Or do you find that when you ask such a such a direct question, that sort of people are challenged, as in, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. I thought that I was the CEO and such in marketing would just do what I mean, do you ever
What
find
they
that?
think and what they are always two different things. Let's remember that.
Yeah.
What ego says and who they really are and what they're capable of doing are always so different. So, I mean, my approach when I'm talking with people, working with people, and it's the same thing, they get the same person out of me. I'm known. I mean, I was talking with Mike, how we got to know each other. Ask Nellie. I'm very direct. I'm very to the point. I'm a pro-con person. I'm going to give you both sides of the story. So when I work with individuals, let it be on the career guidance side as a career consultant or as a recruiter, they're still going to get the same person from me. I'm not going to change my personality. I'm still going to be direct. And in the startup, I think that they need to have that same feeling of what they go into and what they're looking at.
So for an early stage company, which most of our clients are, as they're starting to look to hire people, what are some of the things the early stagers aren't bringing to you? Are they not bringing a complete job description and not bringing a good description of the person they want? Is it both? Is it other things? What are they not giving you?
Keep going. So my favorite is when they give me a job description and then I tear it apart and they don't realize that I'm going to do that for them and to them. Because a job description is a job description. If you put it aside, just tell me what you really want, what you really need, and what is your wish list? And what can you live without and what can you not live without? And then when you set that aside, is it going to be a truly personality hire as long as they have certain skill sets and they can learn everything else? Or is it you don't really care about the personality, you just need them to be able to do this type of work? And they need to know the difference. And that's my responsibility. My responsibility is calling them out. This job description is great. However, I need to know what really is important to you. You're telling me that you want somebody who's analytical. Well, does that mean you want just a heads down numbers person who can crunch numbers all day? Or does that mean you need somebody when they do the analytics that they can also push back and say, these numbers don't add up and this is why? So my responsibility is asking them those hard questions that they probably didn't think about when they come in and hire somebody and what's going to fit. Because a lot of times I'll ask them one simple question like, I didn't think of that one. I didn't know I was supposed to think about that. That's why they hire me, is to point that out to them.
So you told me a very interesting thing, and it's on your website as well, that you are a reverse recruiter, meaning that you're still paid by the company doing the hiring, but you're advocating for the job candidate, which I think is very powerful. But it would really help, I think, if you could explain for our audience exactly how that works.
So there are two different types of reverse recruiters. In the olden days, when I first started, we weren't called reverse recruiters. We were just called recruiters. People would come to you and say, I need a job. We would look at their background, take information, learn about them. We would actually do call sheets because we didn't have a computer on our desk at the times. And we would actually, believe it or not, we would create and make cold calls to people in that industry to see if they could utilize somebody in that field. That's one way. Now, in the good old days, which were not very good, if we found a position for that person, either the employer would pay for that fee or the applicant would pay for that fee. Now, come years later, thankfully, we don't charge the applicant anymore. It's illegal, thankfully. However, come to 2022, I am a reverse recruiter when it comes to my employers who hire me. So they hire me, they have a void, I fill it. What they need to know is that my responsibility is only to the applicant, not to my client. My job responsibility is to make my applicant happy. So my applicants will know nothing about the company and who they are until I get to know them first. Once I get to know them and I get a feel for what they're really looking for, then I can find out if they're a good fit for my employer or not. And that you will never find in another recruiter, because their job usually find out who they are, yes or no questions, will it stick, throw them to the employer. That to me is my reverse recruiting methodology as a recruiter. Now, thirdly, there are companies out there and they're called reverse recruiting agencies. Let me tell you, this is what they do, because I called them because I wanted to find out for myself. They charge you $2,500 per month. They spend 15 to 20 minutes with you. And all they do is send out your resume to all the job boards and to all the positions that they feel that you're qualified for that are already open. And they hope something sticks. They don't partner with any companies. They don't create anything for you. They're doing the exact same thing that you can do, but you don't have to waste your time doing it. And there's no guarantee.
Wow. What has changed in the, I know
it's wrong, isn't it?
Your website said you've been working in this industry 29 years, but that was all you're admitting to, which I found hilarious.
Yeah, thanks for aging me. Appreciate it.
I'm right there with you. I'm way older than I look on camera. What's really changed as far as the early stage company scene in hiring? Has much changed, or is it more change on the side of the job seekers? With COVID has upturned the economy for all the lockdowns and everything. So a lot of things are changing. That's
a different story. I mean, literally, and the best way I can describe what's happening right now, and excuse the French, but I think everybody's going to understand it. It is a complete shit show right now. I have positions right now that normally would take me maybe a week to fill, and it's taking me weeks. I can't even find an entry-level person right out of high school, $23 an hour, Monday through Friday, no weekends, will train, and I can't find anybody. Wow. That's how bad things are right now. And I'm actually going to be writing about this week, but you guys get first glance at it. Here's my take, and this is my education to everybody who's looking for a job right now. You may not have cake and eat it and not get fat. You can't have it all. Because as much as everybody wants to work remote, welcome to the real world. It's not always going to be that way. It's not always going to be remote. It's not always going to be hybrid. We are going to come back to reality. Between 2024 and 2025, you're losing communication skills. You're losing the depth of connection with people when you're working remote and doing this on a continuous basis. You can only stare at your four walls for so long before you say, get me the hell away from this. But because it's so new, just like a brand new pair of shiny boots, it's new and it's pretty and you want to wear it out. It's going to wear out. And that's what's happening right now. That's why people are unemployed. That's why they call it the new resignation. It's not the new resignation. As people are thinking that they're entitled and they can have everything that they want. Guess what? You can't. You really can't. Yeah, I'm a little bit passionate about that, and I'm a little perturbed about it. I understand remote. Hell, I do work remote, and I've been working remote before COVID. But I also get out and I meet my clients. I get out and I meet my applicants. Not so much, you know.
Yeah, carry on.
I just said something so important. How would you recommend that both job seekers and early stage company runners get out and meet people face to face? Seems like, you know, whenever we go to the coffee shops here around Austin, nobody's talking to anybody because everybody needs to be 9 feet apart.
Right.
Hopefully that's just Austin, but I don't know. So what are some ways people can get better connected?
I mean, there's different places where you can meet. I mean, if you really want to meet the person and get a sense of who they are one-on-one, there's parks, people. You don't have to do it inside a restaurant. You know, you can take them for a walk. You can meet them someplace outside. There's lots of places. There's even coffee shops, even in Austin and even in Texas, where you can meet them outside and have a conversation. All you have to do is just find that one place that you're comfortable with.
Have you seen a change in, or what sort of changes have you seen in people's communication skills? Not just in the last couple of years, but in the last decade or so, where there obviously has been a move towards the online communication mediums?
I think the biggest thing that you see nowadays is this. You don't see them. You don't see their body. You don't get to hear their tone. And that to me is, in the communication world, when you're dealing with people, is huge. If you can't feel their communication and see their whole body, not just from the waist up that we're doing right now, and actually hear the tone on the inflection of how they're communicating, what they're saying, why they're saying it, and how they're saying it, then you're missing so much. I mean, think about when you guys were in the office last and that quote unquote water cooler, and you're surrounded next to, you know, the kitchen, drinking coffee. You're finding out about the weekend. You're talking about Tom's birth of his child, but you actually get to see his body, how he gets to be so excited, and you get to be entrenched in that. Nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, Tom had a kid. Thanks, you know, congratulations, Tom. Where's that warmth? Where's that responsibility to be with other people besides just having a computer between you? That has changed before COVID. It's changing even now, worse. And we're missing that. And we're missing that link. Some of your most responsible companies and thriving companies all started off with face-to-face. Think Facebook, you guys.
Yep.
Right? Think Microsoft. Think Amazon. Think of those big three companies. Everybody interviewed face-to-face. Everybody interviewed in the office with the manager. They got to see the culture. They got to feel it. How would you do that anymore?
Yeah, it used to be one of the big interview questions for the seeker going in. The interviewee was, what's the culture of this place?
Yeah.
And you try to find out something ahead of time before you showed up for the interview.
Which is kind of funny because that question annoys the hell out of me. Because before COVID, because when you walk into the company, you get to see the culture. You get to see if there's somebody representing you. You get to walk through a corridor. You get to walk into an office. You get to see firsthand that culture. Are there people walking around? Are there people talking? Is it, deader than a doornail? Does this really want to work? Why is it so dead? You get to ask those questions, and it's important to you.
Yeah, I remember one of my early interviews, even while I was still finishing college, and everybody in the place had a blue shirt and a black tie. I'm like, nah, I don't want to have to dress like everybody else.
Oh, well, remember when you were interviewing, if you were in a men, you were in a black or a gray suit, right?
Yep.
And women were in a black or a gray dress, and you couldn't show any color whatsoever. You know, you couldn't wear anything like this. Oh my gosh, you know, that would be for heaven. You can't do it.
When I started my first company, I had a simple dress code for everybody. I don't care who you are. The sternal notch right here below your throat, everything from that to just above the knee gets covered. As long as you're covered up, I'm good. It's like colors, pattern, whatever, you know.
Yeah. My thing is, as long as you look good, you look professional, and you're comfortable, then you're fine. And professional can be in a nice pair of jeans and a shirt. Comfortable can be in, in shorts, depending on what you're doing, and a nice shirt. The girls aren't shown, and the fly is not open. Other than that, you're fine.
It's really what you. I mean, what we're talking about here is a much bigger issue. It's a much bigger conversation than, and I don't want to put recruitment down, but it's a much bigger conversation than just recruitment, isn't it? We're actually talking about human to human being, the interactions which humans have done for 100,000 years, and technology has eroded it away through, and then obviously COVID has, and I guess what we've almost seen with what we've heard about for so many years about the issues with tribes and whatnot, and cultures dying and being lost. I guess almost in some ways, are you seeing that in some companies at the moment? Like how does a company retain a culture if everyone's working across the world and it's a totally different thing? I would imagine for them to retain a sense of culture, as opposed to when, as you said, you would talk over a coffee and find out that Tom had just had the child, whereas now, do you see that as an issue now, that it's either cultures being put on a back burner, or the companies are finding hard to maintain that culture because of the remoteness of workers nowadays? Or employees, rather.
I think the company just needs to change their philosophy on the culture. That's the biggest thing, is just changing it. I mean, every couple of years, everybody needs to paint the walls. I mean, the furniture. This is the same thing. If everybody is going remote now, then your culture has to change. And that culture piece now is, what's the hours? Is it, what kind of flexibility do I have as the culture? What am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? Do I have to sign in by 8:00? Do I have a manager who's making sure I'm on, at 8:00 and my computer is on at 8:00 and I'm working? Or can I take a 3-hour gap and then work from 8 to 11 at night? So now it's just a matter of changing that culture to fit that individual and to fit that company. And a lot of companies are just now, we have to do is they just have to figure out what works for their company right now. And they're still trying to figure that out. We might be 2 years into this pandemic, but it takes more than 2 years to tweak things and change things depending on how big your company really is.
Yeah.
And it's just asking the right questions when you hire. What is needed from you? We're 100% remote. We give, not a problem. What's good for you? If you can't start until 10:00 because your kids are going in school, that's great. However, every Wednesday, I need to make sure that you're here by 9:00. Can you make that happen? So there's a ton more of give and take. If the employer is smart, they'll do it. If the applicant is smart, they'll do that as well. Again, you can't have everything you want. There's got to be enough give and take on both sides. And that's your culture tweak right now on the remote world.
Because I guess what we've covered so far is a company has to be very clear about its purpose and its a bigger vision. That the CEO or the person involved in the recruiting has to be maybe humble enough or open enough to realize that maybe the best fit might be someone more intelligent or someone more skilled or whatever that case might be. And then of course we've moved into the essence of human communication, like the loss of warmth and the loss of that closeness. We've sort of covered entitlement or feeling that this is the way to go, but knowing that obviously things will evolve and people will have to get back to work, so to speak. And then I guess what we're moving into now is really the culture and how maybe companies really need to consider what their culture is online. And although that's a different playing field, I guess, to being in the office, it maybe involves more of a give and take, right? And I guess it comes back to being human a bit, right? It's like, like things have changed. So I guess where this leads, or where this is leading me, is what might your advice be for like an early stage, as in where is what's next? What should they look out for? Maybe what should they concentrate on from your perspective of what you're seeing, Jennifer?
I think it's their flexibility of what they want. I mean, the 3 words that I live by, that I teach employers and applicants and when I consult, is your value, your purpose, and your why. Yeah. And so when somebody is about to hire, do they know all 3? When someone's about to interview, do they know they're all 3? And when it comes to culture, what are they willing to let loose? What are they willing to give? But what do they also need to take and receive? So, I mean, if you have to find somebody who's in sales and it's inside sales and they're going to be on the phone, but they're on the East Coast, can they also stay a little bit later, like twice a day, twice a week, to work the Pacific time, and vice versa? So that applicant has to be willing to give and take, and that employer has to be willing to do that give and take as well. And even if it wasn't in a remote world, and even if it wasn't with COVID, they still always have to think about that. They can't just think about what's best for the company. What's best for the company is having the right people in the company, that they want to be valued, they want to be heard, but they also want to be able to do their job because they want to earn that check. They want to continue to do what they do, and they like doing what they're doing. Yeah. And it comes down to this. I hate to tell you this. It's all common sense. It really is.
Which is not very common.
And it's not common. And there's a lot of employers out there who don't get it still. And there's a lot of individuals who are looking for a job who don't get it as well. It's just like when you interview. Interview is nothing but a hardcore conversation. You get to know them and they get to know you. If you know yourself really well, they can ask you any question and you got an answer. And if an applicant asks the employer any question and they don't have an answer, then that's not the company that you want to go to work for. It's common sense. You know what you're looking for on both ways. And when it comes to culture, you need to know what you're going to fit in and what you're not going to fit in.
That's so important. Such a big change from the job seeking of days of yore when I was a young man. About
huge.
You can't just walk in and say, I want the job, and boom, you're hired.
That's massive change. What are some cool recruiting stories you can share with us? Like some of the really brilliant moments you've had.
Oh my gosh. So I think one of my favorite ones was when, this is a while ago, but it's still a really good one. We would have an employer come in and interview individuals back to back to back. So it's like one day, interview people, schedule them. When that happened, he was on his 2nd person interviewing, and I'm in Seattle, and it was early 90s, and we had a major earthquake. And at the time, I was in a building that was probably the oldest in Renton, not very secure. I mean, this whole thing is shaking in the whole 9 yards. I'm from California. It didn't really bother me. So I'm the one actually telling everybody, take the stairs down here, grab your stuff, let's go, it's fine. I opened up the door, and all of a sudden I couldn't find the man. He had opened up the door, shut the door, bolted out. I have no idea where the man went. And we
Oh,
lost him for 3 days. We literally lost the man for 3 days. He was from a different country, had never experienced an earthquake. He did not know what was going on, and he bolted.
no.
And when we finally found him, he goes, well, there was no place for me to hide because it was just a table and a chair in our room, and that was it. And it was just a tiny little round table. An earthquake was not going to happen. There was windows right there. He freaked. He literally and just bolted. And I just, to this day, I can just picture this little old man going, wah, just kind of leaning out the door.
That's a great one.
I felt really bad for him. I did.
Yeah.
I have
It's
stories
challenging.
where the people don't understand when there's windows where you're about to interview, you can see outside the windows. So
Okay.
I had an employer who was about to do an interview, and she's on the phone with me because we're talking right before the applicant comes in. Thankfully, this was not my applicant. I'm very proud it was not mine. And she's explaining to me what's going on. And she's like screaming in the phone. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I can see the guy peeing on the grass before he comes in.
Oh, no.
Literally, the pants are down, and she's watching the man pee on the tree across the street where she is working. And then he finishes business and walks into the building for an interview.
I see.
So, I mean, people will do the darndest things. But I'm thinking, do you not see there's windows in this building where you're about to walk in? Do you not understand that people can see you doing what you are doing right now? And then to hear the commentary was even more fun. I mean, because she's from Georgia and you have that accent going for her. And she was just like doing the dialogue about what was happening.
Word.
Oh, my
There's a lot
word.
of
Comes back to common
things
sense.
that people do.
So are we now finally at the point in our culture where people are nice to the person running the front desk of a company when they go in?
Are they nice?
Well, I've always been that way. When any company I walk into, I've always been very polite to whoever's running the front desk, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I have seen a ton of people in my time just walk in, just, not being very nice.
Mm-mm.
Is that kind of disappearing, or are people still that clueless?
Well, number one, it's hard to find somebody who's going to sit at a front desk in a lobby right now. Even before
Yeah, good point.
Even before
Solved itself.
COVID, there's still not a lot of companies that have that personal touch of having somebody greet you at the desk. The responsibility of that receptionist front desk person is to let that individual know, greet them. Now, if somebody's coming up to greet them and they're an ass, that ass sits down, that receptionist gets up, goes into the back office and tells that person, by the way, you want to spend 2 minutes with them because this is what he did to me.
Yeah, good.
That's
What
a
they
courtesy.
should do.
When I was first started doing this and we had our front desk person, we relied on our front desk person to tell us if it was a courtesy or not, just based on the respect that they were given.
Yeah.
So if you're interviewing and you're out there and you've got somebody greeting you, even if someone's greeting you over Zoom and said, Mrs. Smith will be right with you, you better just like behave 100%. Otherwise, you're showing your true colors and you're not going to get employed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always hoped would change, because I got so tired of dealing with obnoxious people.
Yeah, but obnoxious people will eventually show their true color even in conversation with you.
They do.
Yeah. Mike, we've had such a brilliant session.
We have. Because
Jennifer
Jennifer knows stuff.
Hey,
Jennifer's been around the block a little bit. Yes, she has seen a lot. She consults on the career side. She recruits on the other side. She can write a book. I think my book would only be about 20 pages because, as I said, I'm direct. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. Don't screw this up, and life will be easy.
You've appeared in someone else's books, though. So
I've appeared in about 5 different books. Yes.
Go ahead, James.
My voice is being heard everywhere.
Is there anything that you might like to kind of tell us about, or sort of finish with? Have you got anything which you offer, like a new offer, or is there anything that
about me?
Yeah. I mean, is there anything else that in the sense, hey, I'm offering this or blah blah blah? I was just wondering if.
Well, I mean, I had an offer at the beginning of January, and I had enough people take advantage of it. I put a little offer out there just for the beginning of the year on my consulting business. If you're looking for career consulting, I was doing a half price.
Okay.
And I had smart enough people who hit me up on it. I had another person hit me up, and he says, "Yeah, my wife found this on Instagram," and I'm like, "Okay, that's great, but I've already had the 5 people, but I'll still do something for you since you're mentioning it." So he was very thankful on that. Here's the thing about me, guys. I mean, what you see is what you get. I am a national recruiter. I love what I do. I'm good at what I do. I'm a career consultant. I specialize in bringing people down so I can bring them back up the right way. So their voice is heard, their feelings are heard. They know exactly who they are, what they want to tell other people about themselves. My area of specialty is listening with intent in everything that I do. But the best thing about it is I like what I do. And I have a good time doing what I do. And I think if anybody can find an employee who wants that, or if an applicant can find a company that allows them to do that, then you have a win-win.
Absolutely. And you have a blog on your website. And so the link to the website's right down below this video. Should people contact you on LinkedIn as well, or just the website, or do both?
They can do both.
Okay.
They can do both. They can sign up. I offer a half hour of consulting for free if they have questions or concerns. Most of the time it's leads into something else, but it doesn't have to. Sometimes it just say, "I have 4 questions for you. Can you answer them?" And I do.
See, we love people like you because we're the same way. It's like we just feel so good when we share or we help somebody, and we don't really have an expectation of business happening. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But oh my gosh, it seems like it's just such a better way to live.
Well, I mean, if I have the time and if I have the knowledge and the bandwidth, then why not do what I do? My pay it forward, my volunteer that goes all out to military veterans and spouses. And people have been asking me, people at first, when they first thought, why do you do this? It's because my son's in the military. No, it's because I've been doing it before my son was in the military. It's because I have the time and I have the knowledge and someone needs to help them. So I do. So
that's huge.
It doesn't make me necessarily feel good, but it knows that people get where they want to go after the military. And that's my pay it forward. And that's my nonprofit that I give back to.
Well, I love that. I'm involved in that community, so it's really good to hear. Any last thoughts there, James? You want to take us out?
Jennifer, I would just like to thank you for your time. I really feel so very grateful, and I've learned so much, and I feel blessed to have you been able to find the time to have shared and to patiently answered my somewhat rambling questions. So I'd like to thank you on both accounts there.
Just making sure I understood them all, that's all.
so really, and if our listeners can get even a fraction as much out of this as I've done, it's been a wonderful experience, and I've learned just so much. So thank you so much, Jennifer.
You bet. Well, thank you for having me, gentlemen. This has been a very nice surprise and conversation with both of you. So I thank you.
Thank you. And all you guys and girls out there that are struggling with your early stage company, don't hesitate to contact Jennifer. She just told you she's willing to talk to you for free for 30 minutes. Take advantage of it. Common sense isn't common, so grab some. Make the call.
There you go.
There we go.